Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss the nonsense of Boris Johnson threatening to withdraw from all or part of the European Convention of Human Rights and how the EU are potentially going to withdraw the cooperation of their police and courts if he does. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, this situation has arisen because Boris Johnson is doing what all Conservative Prime Ministers do, pretending to sound tough on crime, but deciding that actually dealing with crime is fairly expensive. I'd like to reduce taxes, so we'll just let it run rampant, but we mustn't be seen to. The fact that crime is as high is because the government cuts funding from social programmes and education. The fact that crime largely goes untackled so often is because they cut police numbers by 21,000 and closed down 600 police stations. The fact that the courts aren't able to process prosecutions properly is, well, twofold really. One, their funding, you guessed it, their funding has been cut, so courts are standing empty with a huge backlog of cases just to save on the electric bill, and also because they introduced a computer system that keeps failing, so you've got judges and clerks of the court there not able to get the information they need because it's a crap system. And the fact that there are such high rates of reoffending is because Conservative governments won't fund rehabilitation programmes, ones that are proven to work, and they release prisoners early due to cost-cutting measures. And it's the early release of prisoners that Boris Johnson has latched onto in the wake of the attack in London last year and the more recent one. Of course, he blamed the last Labour government, but it was actually changes that the Conservative government made that caused these releases. Besides, the time in prison in itself has nothing to do with offences. It's the quality of time in prison. Under the Conservative, prisons are just cages, not rehabilitation centres. If the government really wanted to protect the public, keep us safe, they'd remove the root causes of crime, not create new ones. But the situation we're in is that Johnson is promising to get tough on sentencing. Now, other Conservative Prime Ministers have done that in the past, exclusively done that in the past. But whereas previous Conservative leaders have extended the length of sentence, we're going to increase the length of sentences for these crimes, and that all plays very well in the press. But then what they do is they order automatic releases partway through. So in reality, the amount of time people are spending in prison is actually not greater, so it doesn't cost as much, but it sounds tough in the papers. Now, Johnson is doing something a bit different. Because he's latched on, as I say, to that early release part. So what he's planning to do will not only not work, according to every single expert in the field of crime and justice, but it risks breaching the European Convention of Human Rights. Now, just to be clear on this point, this is not an EU law. So this isn't something you just think, it's all right, at the end of the year, we won't have to worry about it. No, this has nothing to do with the EU. So in theory, it has nothing to do with Brexit. It's a Council of Europe convention, as it happens. One that the British came up with. However, the EU have insisted that the UK respects accepted human rights as part of any deal with them. So in the UK, we have the Human Rights Act, and that sets the European Convention into British law. Boris Johnson is planning on rewriting it. Now, if he does, the EU are planning to automatically trigger the withdrawal of cooperation of their own police and courts. And that would put members of the British public in danger. As, for example, we wouldn't know the backgrounds of people entering the country from the EU. It makes our borders much less secure. And it also means that we can't pursue fugitives as easily once they've fled our borders into the EU. In fact, even if you believe that Johnson's plan would genuinely make us safer, let's say you look at it and you think, yeah, that would actually work, even though, let's be honest, how many people here actually understand these things? It still wouldn't be worth it. Because think about the number of instances that Johnson is using as justification for these changes. It's a small number. It's a greater number than it should be, but it's a really small number. Now you think of all the situations in which we benefit from cooperation with European police in the countries that are immediately surrounding us. And we'd be in much greater danger if we lost that cooperation. We'd be missing out on the security provided by the policing and the courts of 27 of our neighbours. And Johnson's plan doesn't do anything to make us safer. In fact, only a right-wing nutjob can possibly think that watering down or even removing human rights actually makes a population safer. Human rights exist specifically to make members of the public safe from those who would otherwise hold power over our very lives. And it's not just that if Johnson does this, he'll struggle to get a deal. Even if he gets a deal, he hasn't done this, he gets a deal, it's ratified and it's all implemented. The EU are planning on ensuring there's a clause to ensure automatic withdrawal of this cooperation in the event that the UK abandons any part of the convention. So even if it does it later on, it will trigger automatic withdrawal. Frankly, the EU have seen Boris Johnson and his band of angry men, and they'll know that they can't take any goodwill for granted. I mean, one of the lessons that Britain needs to learn is that we've adopted a political system that assumes that the people in charge of it are fundamentally decent people, and when it comes to it, they have boundaries. So then we get a Prime Minister who we give a majority to, who has no boundaries at all. Yeah, the EU have seen that, and they're going to look, yeah, we need safeguards here. And they will want safeguards against everything, I think, before signing on the dotted line. But just as the Conservatives brought us Brexit, saying it would make us richer when actually it's making us poorer, so too they'll be saying they're acting to ensure our safety by stripping away our protections. And finally, it should also be borne in mind that many influential Conservatives a few years ago, when the Brexit referendum result was out, have been quite open about the fact that they see Brexit as a route to getting rid of human rights laws in the UK completely. The UK is still a member of the Council of Europe, but it has suspended human rights laws in the past due to the mess it made in Northern Ireland, and it looks like it plans to do so again. So I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then also please click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.